I keep my badge in my back pocket when I'm home. Not because I'm ashamed of it, but because out here, I'm not trying to be sheriff to my own land. I'm just trying to be a man with a fence line, a cup of coffee, and enough quiet to hear myself think. That quiet matters, too, because Pinewater Ranch isn't some weekend hobby for me. It's the one place in my county that still feels honest. The kind of honest you can smell in cedar boards and fresh-turned soil. I've got an old memorial grove tucked down by the creek. Nothing fancy, no signs, no speeches, just a stone ring and names etched into granite. Local vets, friends, kids who didn't get to grow old enough to be grumpy. I tend that grove like it's a living thing, because in a way it is. And I'm protective of it in the way you're protective of something that saved you when the rest of the world couldn't. My best friend, Maggie, says the ranch has a heartbeat. She's not the poetic type, but she's right. Maggie grew up on this land with me, and now she helps keep it steady. We fix fences, build birdhouses, argue about whose chili is better, and pretend we're not getting older until our knees remind us. Then there's Otis, my head of security, which is what he calls himself even though the man can't guard a cookie jar from a determined raccoon. He's an old ranch hand with a straw hat he treats like body armor and a sense of humor that shows up whether you asked for it or not. Last week he tried to teach a rooster to stand watch and got chased across the yard like he owed the chicken money. Maggie rolled her eyes, I laughed, and Otis swore the rooster was testing him. That's the rhythm out here. Work, quiet, small dumb jokes, and the kind of peace you have to earn. Then Whisper Ridge Estates got built over the hill. Big homes, shiny mailboxes, people who talk like a homeowners association is a government agency. Their HOA president is a woman named Belinda Shaw. If entitlement was a perfume, she'd bathe in it. I'd already had her call my office twice to complain about agricultural odors. That's a fancy way of saying manure. On a ranch. In farm zoning. I explained property rights. I explained the county codes. She huffed like I'd personally insulted her bloodline and hung up. Still, I tried to be neighborly. I really did. But some folks look at a dusty truck and worn boots and assume you're a person they can shove aside. And that assumption is what started the worst Saturday I've had in a long time. It was warm out, pine needles sweet in the air, the creek running low and steady. I was near the memorial grove checking the fence line, thinking about nothing more complicated than replacing a post Maggie had painted bright red for visibility, even though it looked like a stop sign grew legs. Then I heard it. A dull thumping bass, way too close. Not, someone's music is a bit loud close. My soil is vibrating close. My gut tightened. That feeling doesn't lie. Trouble doesn't always arrive wearing a mask. Sometimes it shows up in designer sunglasses and a Bluetooth speaker. I climbed the rise by the boundary line, and my jaw locked the second I saw it. A full-blown party had been built on my land. Not near it. Not, maybe the property line is confusing. On it. A rented tent, lights strung from my fence posts, balloons tied to my gate like this was a fairground, and at least 40 teenagers dancing like they'd bought the place. Plastic cups everywhere. Beer cans already piling. A bonfire starting up way too close to dry brush. And the worst part. They'd set the DJ table about 10 feet from the entrance path to my memorial grove. That grove is quiet on purpose. It's where people come to breathe and remember. And these kids were out there screaming lyrics and tossing trash like it was a parking lot. Before I could even step forward, a young man peeled away from the crowd and swaggered toward me like the land came with his birth certificate. Tall, expensive haircut, gold chain, that smirk that makes your hand itch. He looked me up and down and decided, instantly, I was beneath him. Yo, he said, loud, like he wanted everyone to hear him clowning the old guy in flannel. This is private for the party. Staff parking is around back. His friend snickered. My voice stayed calm because I've learned calm is a weapon. Son, I said, this is private property. My property. This party ends now. He laughed. Not nervous laughter. The kind that says he's never been told no by anyone who matters. Nah, man. This is community space. My mom said it's basically in used land. We're doing my birthday out here. You can go. I don't know. Mow something. Then he waved his cup toward the memorial grove like it was weeds. Besides, what's that little rock circle? Creepy. That sentence hit me like a shove. Maggie appeared at my side a moment later, eyes wide, hands clenched. Otis came trotting up behind us, carrying a rusty rake like he was about to duel a whole generation. Now listen here. Otis barked. This is sacred ground, and you little whippersnappers are about to meet the spirit of consequences. The boy stared at Otis, then at me, then back at Otis, amused. Is this your security guard? He said, loud enough to draw laughter. What's he gonna do, arrest my playlist? He turned back to me with that same smug grin. Look, old man, my mom runs the HOA. Belinda Shaw. She handles all the paperwork. If you've got an issue, you can take it up with her. He leaned in like he was doing me a favor. Or, you can leave and stop embarrassing yourself. I looked at the tent, the bonfire, the beer cans, the memorial path with trash bouncing near it, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. You have 10 minutes, I said. Clear your guests and equipment off my land. If you don't, you'll be removed. He blinked like he couldn't process the idea of consequences. Then he scoffed. Sure, whatever. And he walked away like I was background noise. I didn't charge in swinging. That's what people think tough looks like. Real tough is keeping your head when every nerve in your body wants to go nuclear. I pulled out my phone and started documenting. License plates, wide shots, close-ups of trash, kids clearly drinking. The bonfire too close to brush. Tire tracks cutting my pasture. A couple teenagers had started throwing cans at the wooden marker that pointed toward the memorial grove, laughing every time it clanged. Maggie's face went pale with anger. Otis muttered something about calling the squirrels for backup, which would have been funny if I didn't want to put my boot through a speaker. The boy, his name turned out to be Landon Shaw, sauntered back over like he wanted another round of disrespect. Taking pictures? He sneered. My mom will sue you if you film me. I kept panning. Landon, I said, this is your final warning. He lifted his cup. Final warning from who? The Pine Tree Police. The crowd roared. And right then, more cars arrived. More kids. The music got louder. Someone cracked open a new case of beer. That's when I made the call I'd hoped I wouldn't have to make. Not to 911. Straight to my deputy on duty, a sharp kid named Reyes who knows how to move quietly. Reyes, I said, keeping my voice low. I need units staged near Pinewater Ranch. Trespassing, property damage, underage drinking. Large crowd. Hold until I say go. He asked how many. 40 to 50, and growing. I ended the call and watched the party like a crime scene, because it was. The difference is, these kids didn't think rules applied to them. And that's exactly why I wasn't going to be sloppy. If you want justice, you build it like a fence. Post by post, level, solid, no gaps. Maggie leaned close. They're not going to listen, she whispered. Not until someone bigger shows up. I glanced at the ridge toward Whisper Ridge Estates. She'll show, I said. The queen always shows when her crown gets challenged. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, a black SUV rolled in like it owned the dirt road. It stopped hard. Out stepped Belinda Shaw. Perfect hair. Perfect outfit. Sunglasses like armor. And she marched toward me without even looking at the trash or the bonfire or the memorial path. Landon ran to her like a child who got caught and decided to weaponize his mother. Mom, this farmer's being weird, he said. He's trying to kick us out. Belinda's gaze hit me like a cold scan. And you are? She asked, voice clipped. I kept my tone steady. Owner of this property. You need to shut this down. They're trespassing, drinking, damaging the land. And they're 10 feet from a veteran's memorial. Belinda laughed like I'd told a joke. A memorial, she said, dismissive. This area is adjacent to Whisper Ridge Common Land. If there's confusion about boundaries, we can resolve it. I'm sure you'd be happy with a small compensation for the inconvenience. She actually reached into her purse like she was about to buy my silence on the spot. Maggie's nostrils flared. Otis muttered, "Here comes the checkbook, Justice." Belinda leaned closer, lowering her voice like she thought she was being gracious. "Listen," she said, "you don't want problems with our association. We have attorneys. We have county contacts. We can make your life difficult. Code enforcement, noise complaints, environmental inspections. People like you don't have the resources to fight people like us." Then she smiled. "So be smart. Let the kids enjoy their party, and we'll send someone to clean up." I stared at her. I'd dealt with criminals who had more honesty in their eyes than she did. "Ma'am," I said, "you are offering a bribe." Her smile tightened. "It's not a bribe. It's a donation." "It's a bribe," I repeated, calm as stone. "And you just threaten retaliation if I enforce my rights." Belinda's confidence flickered for half a second, then she tried to bully her way through it. You're just a ranch hand, she snapped. You're not going to tell me what happens in my community. That was the moment I stopped hoping she'd do the right thing. Some people don't respond to decency. They respond to consequence. I slid my hand into my back pocket, slow enough for her to see I wasn't reaching for a weapon, and pulled out my badge. The sunlight flashed off it. Sheriff's Office. County seal. My name. Belinda froze like her brain hit a wall. Actually, I said, voice even, I'm the sheriff. And this is my ranch. The silence that fell was so sharp you could hear the creak down the hill. Landon's mouth dropped open. Belinda's face went from pink to paper white. A couple kids in the background started filming, because of course they did. Otis, unable to help himself, whispered loudly, "Oh, now it's a party." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I just clicked my radio and spoke like I do every day. Dispatch, Sheriff Collins at Pinewater Ranch. Activate response. I have trespassers, property damage, underage drinking, and an attempted bribe and intimidation by Belinda Shaw. Belinda snapped out of her shock and tried to scramble for control. "This is ridiculous," she barked. "This is an overreaction. These are children." I looked past her at the bonfire near dry brush. "Children die in overreactions," I said, still calm. "Put the fire out now." Her eyes darted, desperate, and Landon finally looked scared. That's the funny thing about entitlement. It's brave until it's accountable. Sirens rose in the distance, faint at first, then closer, and the party energy drained like somebody pulled a plug. Kids started trying to slip away. Deputies arrived and began locking the scene down. Not rough, not dramatic, just professional. IDs, photos, evidence bags, breath tests, statements. The DJ killed the music without being asked. Maggie stood beside me, arms folded, the kind of quiet anger that could melt steel. Otis kept trying to assist by telling deputies to check hats and socks because villains always hide stuff in socks. Reyes gently walked him toward the house with a cup of coffee like you'd guide a toddler away from a hot stove. Belinda tried one last angle. "I want to speak to your supervisor," she snapped. Reyes didn't even look up from his notepad. "Ma'am," he said, "he is the supervisor." Landon started crying. The real kind. The kind that happens when you realize mommy can't buy you out of gravity. Belinda's face hardened again, then cracked, then hardened, like she couldn't decide if she was furious or terrified. And right as things were being processed, another SUV rolled in, and a man in a polo shirt stepped out, moving fast, eyes darting. Belinda's husband. HOA treasurer. The guy who'd never once bothered to introduce himself despite living half a mile away. He didn't run to his wife. He ran toward the DJ's setup, crouched, and started shoving something into a speaker cabinet like he'd done it before. My instincts lit up. "Stop!" I barked, the first time all day my voice had teeth. Reyes and another deputy moved fast. The man tried to bolt. He didn't make it 3 steps before he was on the ground, cuffed, sputtering excuses. The speaker cabinet tipped and a small lockbox clattered out, popped open, and spilled its guts right into the grass. Stacks of cash, baggies, and a scale. The air went dead again, heavier this time. Belinda made a sound that wasn't a word. Landon looked like he forgot how to breathe. And suddenly, this wasn't just a trespassing party. This was felony territory. Deputies shifted into a different mode, the kind that's all business and no mercy. Evidence photographed. Box secured. Scene widened. Interviews separated. Parents called. And Belinda, who'd walked onto my land like a queen, now stood there watching her little kingdom collapse in real time. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so ugly. Because the truth is, it wasn't the kids that scared me the most. It was the adults. The adults who taught them that money is a shield, that rules are flexible, that other people's land is unused if you want it badly enough. By sunset, the party was over in every possible way. Kids got cited. The ones with alcohol got processed. Property damage was documented for restitution. Belinda was informed she'd be facing charges for attempted bribery and obstruction. Her husband was taken in for the lockbox, and the investigation moved beyond my ranch into their neat little neighborhood of perfect lawns and ugly secrets. A week later, Belinda was removed as HOA president so fast it gave the neighborhood whiplash. Whisper Ridge Estates suddenly got very quiet. Funny how community standards disappear when the community doesn't want the spotlight. Maggie and I spent days repairing the pasture, reseeding grass, cleaning the memorial path, and resetting the peace like you reset a bone. Otis insisted on guard duty at the Grove and brought the rooster with him, which I allowed, because sometimes you let people love things in their own ridiculous way. On a cool evening after most of it settled, Maggie sat with me on the porch and said, "Old Mr. Harrow would have been proud." That was the veteran who started the Grove. I nodded, but my stomach still felt tight, because victory doesn't always taste sweet. Sometimes it tastes like disappointment in humanity. Here's the part that's going to light up the comments. I don't think Landon is the real villain. I think he's the product. The real villain is the culture that raised him to believe other people's boundaries are negotiable if you're rich enough. So I'm asking you straight. If you were me, do you go easy on the kid because he's young? Or do you hammer him with consequences so he learns something his mother never did? And what about Belinda? Should people like that face public accountability? Or do you think they just learn to hide it better next time? Drop your take below. Tell me what you think justice should look like when entitlement crosses the line. And tell me the worst HOA power trip you've ever witnessed, because I promise you, the scariest part isn't the loud party. It's the quiet belief that rules are for everyone else.